Welcome to Soul Speak. My name is Talia Pardo. I'm an editor, a writing coach, a life coach, and these shows are all about speaking to different leaders and different healers in different healing modalities and the different ways that they help people go through life and the things that they encounter and what brought them to where they are. And so today I'm super excited to welcome Sonjali. Sonjali, did I get it right again?
Sonjali.
Sonjali. I
Sonjali.
don't know why.
There,
Sonjali, I'm
almost
so
there.
sorry, Di Guida, from the West Island Hypnosis Center, which is wonderful because you're here in Montreal with me, which is great. It's so nice to have someone who's at least in this hemisphere, because often I'm talking to people in so many different time zones. And Sonjali is a passionate and outcome-driven hypnotist dedicated to helping individuals master their growth mindset through their subconscious with her through their subconscious with her training from the Master Hypnotist Society, as well as utilization and neuro linguistic programming. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble speaking today. She helps people create transformational changes in their lives in terms of behaviors and habits and mindset. So we're going to move away from my tongue-tiedness for some reason as I've started this episode, but we'll go with it. And I'm going to welcome Sonjali to the show and ask you to introduce yourself a little bit better maybe than I did.
Well, hi, thank you very much for having me. I'm really, truly honored to be here. And so, yes, my name is Sonjali. It's a mouthful, yeah. And so I'm a hypnotist and the founder of the West Island Hypnosis Center. So what we are is that we're a clinic in change or behavioral change making. So a lot of speculation about hypnosis and how it might be, some funny juju and some witchcraftery and stuff like that. And there's a lot of, let's say, misinformation about hypnosis. And so what I really enjoy doing is working with clients and showing them that hypnosis is something really natural that we all do and we experience in our everyday life. And so clients come to me to quit smoking, to lose weight, to make personal changes in habits, such as like biting their nails or pulling their hair, picking their skin, to manage fear. So it could be fear of flying, fear of driving on a highway, fear of, throwing up, fear of fainting, fear of spiders, bees, whichever, to work also on relationships. So some people come, to manage like their anger in a better way, for sleep improvements, a whole host of things. So hypnosis really helps people answer, I want to get to a place, like I want to do this, but I don't know how. So it's a common, let's say, application of this would be, don't be stressed. Just don't be stressed. You shouldn't be stressed. And to which the recipient will kind of say, like, yeah, I know I shouldn't be stressed, but I don't know how to unstress, right? So hypnosis helps with this. And so our clients really have the opportunity to kind of try different techniques and stress management and take it home with them so that they can practice it forever time. So there really is a beginning and an end to the sessions. So it doesn't like go on for a long period of time, but it's extremely effective in change making. So
It sounds amazing because it really seems to be able to address the wide spectrum of issues that people deal with in their lives. It's not just for, like you said, the fear of spiders or the nail biting, but also maybe the bigger issues that they're coping with. And so I want to ask you to talk about yourself and how you came to be a hypnotist, but I also want to hold that question up either before or after about whether the impression, like you said, of how people's impression of hypnotism is it in my head, the visual image that always comes up is, on stage, the entertainers who are like the 1, 2, 3, and you're asleep, and now you're gonna dance like a chicken kind of thing. Is that the process, like the technique that you use in hypnotism? In a less entertainment,
Well,
setting.
yeah, so different types of hypnotists. So you have clinicians who have extremely clinical applications, right? So let's say pain management or in dentistry or during surgery, right? You'll have your lay people people. So I would be considered a lay sort of hypnotist. And then you have your stage performers. Okay. So they're very different in their applications, right? They do have some, basis, common basis to them, but they're extremely different, right? So that's like the first question I would say clients would ask when they come in, like, are you going to make me do things, or can I be made to do things that I don't want to do? And I say, hey, listen, you're not going to bark like a dog or cluck like a chicken if that's what you're asking. Like, we're very outcome driven. That's what we're focusing on. But if you want to bark like a dog or cluck like a chicken, hey,
we'll do
sure,
that.
why? Yeah, right. But it's really focused more on an outcome that you want. So when you think about it, people who go to a stage hypnosis show, they're there to be entertained. So they're really, they have a buy-in that's necessary to make that happen.
And so do you bring people in your process deep into a meditative state when you're working with them? Or is it a more dialogue-based process?
So yeah, there is like a lot of, let's say, convergence or similarities between meditation and hypnosis. Okay. So meditation really, so I have a lot of, like, let's say, yogis that have come to see me, or people who are, yoga instructors, or people who are avid meditators. Right. And so the thing, what's really nice about meditation is that people who get into it, it's like a vacation from everyday life, right? Because they're hyper focusing also on something else that's not their everyday life. So it really does feel like a vacation, right? So I'd say the difference between hypnosis and meditation is that we use hypnosis as an avenue, or let's say like a road to achieve a destination. Whereas like meditation, we could call it maybe a distraction, right? But it's not necessarily resolving something that you want to resolve, or changing something you want to change. But it is a great break, right?
Right. So, yeah, no, it's a good it facilitates grounding and recentering so that you can come back out and cope or deal or move forward with what's on your plate. So
Absolutely.
so tell me and tell the audience about what drew you to hypnosis, what brought you into this line of work, where did you come from, kind of, in your life that this became something you want to do.
Yeah, so my previous life, as I call it, so it's almost like my second coming now. But my previous life, I worked in the corporate world, in the manufacturing sector. I was running a business. It was a lot of stress. It was a family business, and in the, such as is the nature in a corporate world, it's that it's the people are wonderful, but there's also a lot of competition in it. There was a lot of, like, let's say, specific challenges that I had, but the lifestyle was not an easy one, because it was many, many hours of work a week. So I worked a lot. I had sick parents that I was taking care of at the same time. So there was like a 10-year period where all these things happened. Like, I had this what I thought at the time was a tragic breakup. My father was diagnosed with cancer, which was like an aggressive type. And then it came coming back over and over. And we were told, he has X amount of time to live. I had some other, family members who had some mental health issues to contend with. And everybody in the family was having kids except for me. So I was just, sort of left to so hold the boat, or hold the fort, so to speak. And during that time, I developed some pretty serious health complications and an autoimmune disease. And I was a heavy smoker, quite a heavy smoker for many years. I had a lot of stress. My hair was falling out. I was not sleeping well. Like, I put on a lot of weight. Like, just a lot, everything about my lifestyle was not good. I had no time to, take care of myself and eat nutritious food or go outside. And I was also, a single person, and I wanted to meet somebody, but with the level of exhaustion I felt just from work, it was impossible to even socialize or even think about it. So it's just everything about my lifestyle was unhealthy. But I had that realization that I reevaluated when my health really did take a turn for the worst.
Right.
And that made me say, what are you doing? So before that, I'd actually decided to quit smoking. So I did end up meeting somebody who I'd been friends with for many years, and we're now married, which is lovely. And I promised him that I would stop smoking, right? And so lo and behold, I went to go see a hypnotist. And I always believed, I was intrigued by hypnosis, but I can't say I was like, I knew myself. I didn't have like a lot of willpower. But I went to this hypnotist, and lo and behold, I stopped smoking, and I was just like, blown away that I was able to stop smoking. Like it just blew my mind, right? And so I looked at his life and like, he was a nice man, and I heard his story, and his story sounded very similar to mine. And he loved what he did, and he felt like such fulfillment for doing what he did. He managed a lot of his pain. He also quit smoking. He also worked in a family business. He also had a lot of stress and like, fears of everything, and like his neuroticism was as high as mine back in his old life. So I was just like, wow, this is incredible. And then a few months later, I did have a pretty big health scare, and I tried everything. I did acupuncture, I did physiotherapy. I just looked for anything different that was outside of the traditional healthcare system. And accidentally, maybe I found hypnosis, but then I took such an interest in it. I trained in it, and I just loved it so much. And then I just said, okay, it's time for this change. And I took time, and I became a hypnotist. I studied everything I could, and I met a wonderful group of people who are also hypnotists, and I saw how wonderful their lives were and the incredible transformations each of these people had made for themselves. And it was very inspiring for me to make that change. And it was an easy choice. Yeah.
Did you say it was an easy choice or it wasn't an easy? It was.
No,
It
it was
was
an
easy.
easy choice. It was an easy choice because I remember like before I had fear of everything. I was so paralyzed with fear from having a diagnosis. Like even if I wanted out of my life, I couldn't, I was too scared to just go get a job. It's like nobody would take me, and I'm flawed. And like, what if I don't feel well and I have a lot of sick days and then they'd fire me? Or what if I have brain fog? Or what if like a whole host of things, right? And so I was in so much fear that I just, they say fight, flight, or freeze. And I was just frozen into this like life of that just wasn't aligned with what I wanted. So yeah.
And how did your family take it when you said I'm going in this direction? Because the family business was what you were working so hard in, and that kind of really restricted your life and caused so much of the stress.
Yeah, and so they were supportive in the end because I did explain like I love what I do, but it's a lot of time. I have dreams for myself, and I really, I tried my best to take care of everything and sort of give an easy handoff for when I left. And it wasn't perfect, of course, but they were very supportive. They were very supportive, which was really nice. And they still don't understand what I do. And like anyone, they they think it's a bunch of, mumble schmumble, if you will. But no, they've been quite supportive in it, and they don't understand a lot about hypnosis, but they know that it's what makes me happy. So they have been supportive.
That's wonderful because it takes a lot of courage to also be able to break out of those structures when we're so entangled with family and there's a lot of family obligations and pressures. So you obviously saw the benefits and were called to change your life, right? You went through such a difficult time. It's so interesting how this, what you went through and your trajectory is so similar to those of us who are finding that we need to change our lives in a drastic way sometimes, that the way we're living is so unhealthy. It's often like a 10-15 year period where we become mired in these patterns that end up just making us sick, right? It's so hard for us to find the answers until we realize the answers are outside of the structure box that society as we've placed ourselves in, and it takes that faith and that courage to step out of it and say, I'm going to seek it outside because I want to feel good. I want to feel healthy. I want my life to benefit me, and I want to find my joy, right? And do things that light me up.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, this usually happens when there's an extreme circumstance, like something major in your life happens, right? Like a breakup that was tragic, or a health scare, or somebody close to you might have had a health scare, or whatever can happen. It's not usually like, okay, I could do better. I'll just change it, right? We get comfy, and comfort is such a terrible addictive drug for all of us, for a lot of people, right? So
Well,
it's really learning to get out of that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, and comfort is comfort I find is bounded by fear, right? Because
Mhm.
to step the ego is afraid of stepping out of the comfort zone. The ego wants to keep us, the way I understand things, the ego wants to keep us where we feel safe and familiar. Even if it's not healthy for us, it's familiar, and that means safe. And so we stay in the comfort zone of what we know. And then we become scared, like you say, you're scared to step out of that. You're scared to try something new. What if you fail? What if it doesn't work? What if
Mhm.
people are upset with me for it? Those fears keep us locked within the comfort zone as well.
Yeah.
From even sometimes contemplating stepping out of that comfort zone, it's hard to even to consider it. And
Mhm.
then, when you recognize everything is founded on the fear platform, right? And
Mhm.
it's all intertwined. Somehow, for those of us who can do it, it's really an incredibly liberating experience that we find how
Mhm.
much, and we're able to look back on. And I'm saying this also from, my own, what I'm relating to so much in my own journey is that you look back on it and are kind of a little bit amazed at how unhealthy, right? And or how, destructive the life you were living was to yourself. Right. And that's when you come to those crises of health or, relationship breakdowns and things like that, that you look back and you're like, how did I think that that was what I needed to be doing? Or how did I justify that to myself? And it's a
Yeah.
relearning process of relearning the structures of what life needs to be for you, which is different
Mhm.
from what it needs to be for me, or, but there's
Exactly. Yeah.
similar values around it.
Absolutely. And when we're in fear, the way like a lot of people can get, it's like you're getting chased by like a saber-toothed tiger all the time. So what's really interesting about hypnosis is that it can sort of answer the question or put into perspective of, if you didn't have the fear, how would your choices be different? Okay, how would the pursuit of your goal be different? So you mentioned something really interesting before about our patterns, right? And so what's nice about hypnosis is that it helps us get out of our patterns or our habits even, right? So we have this if we're to sort of put it at its root, like everyone has something they're very unconsciously trying to prove themselves, and sort of like their profile, and they can have more than one, but one is usually dominant, right? So you have people who are freedom minded, security minded, membership and group minded, right? Self-expressive people and competency minded people. Okay. And so let's say a competency minded person is really trying to prove to everyone how smart they are. Right. So these people
Right.
might be like professors or something that teaches, right, or very highly academic. And you have your self-expressive people, and they're really trying to prove how unique they are, right? And so and there's times where all of these patterns are super useful, and there's times where less is, right? So their outcomes, for example, might be sort of shadowed by the fact that they need to express themselves, and that's more important than an outcome. So popping out of that pattern might be useful. So the people who are group and membership, they tend to be very rulesy. So, for example, if you see a gang, a motorcycle gang, like going down the street, they're actually really group and rulesy, right? So they
I like
need the
that.
group. That's what really drives them, right? So
Right.
it's unexpected, but yeah. And then you have like, security minded people, and these people like to feel safe and comfortable. They'll typically work in like a corporation where it's safe, where you have your benefits and your 401k and whatnot. And then you have your freedom minded people, and these people want to prove to everyone just how free they are. Okay, so these people tend to be more entrepreneurial. They might also be real estate agents is a great example. So they tend to jump from one thing to the next. They need pressure to perform. Okay. But
Mhm.
sometimes this could impede for what they want. So, for example, like I was working with a real estate agent not long ago, and he was having some relationship issues. And so, if we got to the root of it, his pattern of being so freedom minded, he associated a relationship with being like in prison. And so, to show him ways that this is not the case, right, is
Right.
that you can have a healthy relationship and still be free, and you can still, go out with your friends, and you can still have your career, and you don't have to be staying at home watching Netflix every Friday and eating potato chips. It can be much, much more than that, right? So helping people pop out of these habits, and people don't even realize it, right? Like it's just sometimes it could be, and we could be like, freedom minded about some things and security minded about others. So women, for example, who like, had a divorce and it was tough on them, when they go back into the dating game, they might be either extremely freedom minded or security minded. And if they're security minded, the next partner they might choose might be somebody who just feels completely safe. Right. And so while that feels great at a time, if they fast forward it, let's say 10 years down the line, it's like, was my goal? I do feel safe. So what's next?
Right.
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 Yeah. So it's very interesting to see how we interact with these and how they affect our everyday lives. Yeah.
That's incredible because we are also multi-layered and sometimes don't even understand the underlying motivations behind what those patterns and what we're doing.
Mhm.
And everything you're saying, I'm as a life coach and in my training as a life coach, I feel so um not even like very connected with your principles in hypnosis because it is very outcome based. We do look at the reasons behind things, but also make sure not to mire in the why and why did this, the past, but to find the tools to move forward and change the
Mhm.
behaviors and change habits. And so it's so great to find that there are different ways that might suit different people, right? Some people might need that hour of talking, right, of in coaching sessions. Some people might feel more inclined to work in the hypnosis with you in that it's a different process that brings them to similar places. So
Mhm.
that's one of the things I love about this doing this show is I get to meet different people who they just bring people to better places in their lives and help them along, right, and help them learn how to do that for themselves in
Mhm.
ways that every different things work for different people.
Mhm.
So in your work, um, tell me more, because you've also done neuro linguistic programming. And so do you find that you layer that work with your hypnosis with clients, or do you find like on a case by case, like, maybe tell us about how that interplays with the hypnosis.
I find I find them incredibly complementary. I couldn't imagine doing hypnosis without neuro linguistic programming. So I didn't even really understand what that was before I got into it. So I just happened to found that community of hypnotists where I did my training, and everyone was saying another training that was offered was neuro linguistic programming. And so I was like, okay, everyone talked about it, everybody loved it, everyone just raved about the changes they made just during the training. So I did it myself, and it's mind blowing. It really is great for change, and quite rapid change. So that integrated with the hypnosis is just like an incredibly powerful tool. Yeah. And like a lot of people don't know about neurolinguistic programming, but it actually happens again unconsciously all the time. Like people are experiencing all the time. So one of the things I teach pretty much every client is called an anchor, or how to program their own anchors. So recently there's been a lot of talk about neuroplasticity, right? Or rewiring the brain, right?
Yeah.
And they're making it more scientific now. So which is really special because more people will buy into it, right? That it is something that can change. So basically an anchor, we experience these all day, all the time. Okay. And the most common one everyone would see is that their parents set off the most anchors, and your parents could be delightful or your parents could be more difficult or somewhere in between. But it's true that when you see somebody who's like really mature, very emotionally mature, but for some reason around their parents just
Mhm.
can bring out this childlike behavior in them, and it's just something that's anchored into them. So to give another example of an anchor, um, let's say you remember uh, when you graduated high school, there was a song of the summer. Okay.
Okay.
And then every time you hear that song years later, it just puts you in this mood. And you can't explain why, but it just pops you there. Right. So that's an auditory anchor. Or you'd have some people, let's say you were in romance with somebody many years ago and they wore this perfume. And then years later, you're just, walking around the mall and you happen to get a whiff of that perfume, and it just brings you right back to that moment that you remember, that time when you were, in that romantic sort of setting, and kind of puts you in a mood, right? So these are good ways, or this is a great way that this can happen, right? But this is also true that this can happen with simple things. So let's say you have an unpleasant experience at a gas station with an attendant, right? And it was one particular, let's say, rude attendant that you didn't agree with, and then weeks later you go in and you go to get service there at the same gas station, and you just find yourself kind of pissed off, right?
Right.
Or just like in a bad mood, and it's just that place could be an anchor for you, right? Or classic example I give, a husband and a wife would get into an argument, let's say in the morning, and then so they go about their day and forget about it, and then the husband comes home, wife is preparing dinner, she hears the key turn in the door, and all of a sudden she
Mhm.
just like tenses up, right? Because her nervous system remembers what happens in the morning, right? But what's
Mhm.
also neat is that we can program these anchors, which is pretty neat. Okay.
So the way you've described it, it almost, I think another word that some people might use also is trigger. But it's
Mhm.
interesting in the implication that anchor and trigger have, right? Trigger feels much more um
More
explosive,
negative,
or yeah,
negative. Yeah.
it has a it's we don't often hear talk about like pleasant triggers, right? But an anchor is different also in that connotation of pulling down, grounding, seeding that reaction or that association. So
Mm.
it's I like that. It's a novel, different way of referring to a similar concept. So how do you
Yeah. Yeah.
use neuro-linguistic anchors with your clients?
Well, it's actually quite a simple stage, and we can actually do one right now so that you can actually get
Oh, that'd
firsthand
be fun.
experience of what
All
it's
right.
like to have an. Okay. So my first job when clients come to my clinic is to get them out of their heads. So
Mm,
have some people, especially if they're competency minded, they tend to be like really in their head and they're thinking about things before they do anything. And when that's the case, they don't get the experience they need because it is very experiential
okay.
hypnosis. It's really getting into it, being in the here and the now, and really processing things and really getting in touch with your body, with the way you feel, with the way you see things, the way you hear things. Okay. All of that is important. The nervous, really working with the nervous system. Okay. So for you, just to make sure we can just start up by just loosening things up.
Yeah.
Mhm. Good. And notice how just the movement is such a powerful thing because like if I'm even just looking at you moving your shoulders for 3 seconds, it's like your whole face changes.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And so when people are in movement, they just pop out of their head automatically. Right. And
Mhm.
so when that happens at the clinic, I'll have clients like even juggle balls because to get them out of it, and I'll say, you juggle, I'm leaving, I'm coming back in 2 minutes, you know? Okay. And it's almost like I come back to a different person, right? They're just
Mhm.
like
Sure.
people are smiling, they're more relaxed, they're more into it. Okay. So I'll have you to do this. So if we think about let's say we're in tune with our bodies for a second, right? So I like to tell people every feeling we have kind of has a physiological reaction. So for example, if you ever remember falling in love in your life, right?
Mhm.
Remember, maybe some people get butterflies in their tummy, some people describe it as warmth in their chest. Or if you imagine having to speak in front of 30,000 people, like I say, okay, you know what, Talia, in 3 minutes you're going up, there's 30,000 people outside, I want you to give a speech. You might go,
Right.
right?
Right.
Feel like this punching in your stomach
Oh,
for a
tense.
second.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So it's getting in tune with that. So I'm going to have you to do this, really use your imagination for a sec.
Okay.
Okay. So I have you go ahead and close your eyes. Okay. And as you close your eyes, I'm going to invite you to use your imagination. And I want you to imagine a time when you were just completely relaxed.
That's a good question. Okay. All right. I've got one.
Some people, it's like when they were on a beach, some people was in those waking moments right after a massage. That's a good one when you feel all noodly and great after that. Whatever it is, it's right for you. Okay.
Mhm.
And as you do that, I want you to really focus on what you're seeing. Is it a movie or is it a picture?
A movie.
Okay. And is it in color or is it in black and white?
Color.
Okay, great. And so with this, if as you step into this experience of being so incredibly deeply relaxed, okay, do you hear anything like sounds that you have with that memory?
Birds. Few little
Mhm.
birds tweeting kind of in the trees.
Great, great. And then so when you really reel into that and focus on it, where do you feel that relaxation in your body?
Mm. In my limbs, I think my arms and legs are very loose and very,
Right.
you know, heavy.
Good. Okay, good. So as you focus on that, I want you to imagine that there's a dial, like a dial that you would use to turn on a stove. And imagine turning that dial to a maximum. And as you do that, this whole experience is intensified. So see those colors even brighter. Okay,
Mhm.
hear those birds even louder, and really feel that heaviness, that delicious heaviness in your limbs even more. Just intensify everything. Good. And as you get there, really intensifying it, okay, with your eyes closed, you can take your hand and just touch your cheek as you take a breath in. And let go. Good. You can open your eyes. Okay, so I'll just invite you to just look left for a sec and then look right. Great. And then I'll ask you, what color's your front door?
White.
Okay, good. So I want you to go ahead and try and be stressed out right now.
Okay.
Like, think of something that might have aggravated you.
Yeah, well, great. We got one.
Okay, right. So now you can just go and notice how instantly it's different.
Wow, that just went whoosh.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
It's really showing people that you can really put yourself in an instant, what we call resourceful state, right?
That's
So it
amazing.
goes back to so it goes back to when we speak of the patterns, like how would your, let's say, your outcome be different in life if you weren't in fear of doing things, right? Like if you had to take a test, but you weren't in fear, right? Or if you had to, I have athletes who come see me. If you didn't have the performance, nerves, how would it be different? Or if you had to get into a relationship, right? So imagine how right now, if anything you had to do or any task you had to do now, how different it would be if you're in a calm and relaxed state as opposed to, oh shucks, I got stuff to do and you're all tensed up and your heart is beating fast and I have to go, 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 right?
Right.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah, yeah.
incredible, right? Well, it helps to bring you into the space of what it can be in a different, right, with a different mindset. And that's also a lot of mindset work, right? I know with clients, I also ask them, if in your ideal, how would you like this situation to play out? Or what is the ideal set up for your life that you would be your best day of your life? How would that look for you in terms of your schedule and your routine? And so bringing that visual to someone helps bring in that association. And what you're doing is you're creating a mind body connection to that vision. So it feels like, just from this experience, which was amazing. I think that's the first time we've done something like that on this show, which is incredible. And I thank you for it, because I'm still feeling I don't know
Yeah.
what enzyme it is, but there's definitely like a feel good energy flowing through me. But it's making that connection and then giving your body that anchor trigger to set it off with that
Mhm.
touch or motion. And
Mhm.
that's incredible. I haven't encountered anything like that so far.
Yeah,
Like I said,
yeah,
I've done visualizing, but haven't brought it so much
Mhm.
into my body as a full body
Mhm.
experience, that's a beautiful demonstration for the audience as well, to see exactly a bit of what you do with your clients, which is incredible.
Yeah, and listen, it's really, I thought it was mind blowing, and my clients love it, and they're like, wow. Like I had one client tell me, like she came in just for a screening, right? And she's like, oh my God, years of therapy in 30 seconds. I was able
It's
to
like,
calm down, and I thought it was cute. But it's really, we get so out of touch with our nervous system, but it's really neat to know that we can control it, right? And we can learn how to control it. And we do hear that a lot, like, oh, it's mind over matter. And everyone, it's a nice thought, but realistically, when you have an everyday, day-to-day life and you're trying to manage, juggling a million things, it's hard to sometimes stop and smell the roses, or stop and just really uh, take sort of inventory of how you're feeling inside or how things are going. So it's really, I find it's really, like, people in change work, it's really useful to have, a coach, a guide, somebody to just say, hey, let's take a step back and look at the big picture for a second, because it's too easy to get caught in the weeds, right? So it's and learning the tricks along the way are just incredible, really
Oh,
incredible.
I mean, in my own studies for life coaching, I've learned so much myself. And I really believe everybody needs a coach, and coaches need coaches. And, it's just, we always need that support in helping us step outside of ourselves to see things from a different
Mhm.
perspective. And
Mhm.
I was going to say something. Oh yeah, what you were saying about the nervous system is, that's the thing that I've learned myself in my own work, is that things really do become physical reactions, right? Like your thoughts become feelings and your feelings become physical feelings.
Yes.
And then that process takes thought out of it entirely, because then you're reacting. It's your physical body that reacts to something that generates the feelings and thoughts, and then you're in this loop.
Circle. Yeah,
right? That
absolutely.
you can't control the physical reaction. So addressing that is really is so amazing, you
Oh
know.
yeah, and to think like, so I have a lot of clients that come in for stress management, right?
Mhm.
And stress, and people don't believe it. It's just very abstract, almost like a religion or something spiritual, is that it's there, but you can't always see it, the stress,
Mhm.
right? And so people have to come to terms that the stress can create physical ailments, right? And so you have high blood pressure, low blood pressure, heart conditions, migraines, blood sugars can spike, insomnia, just random pain, right? Like even my clients who come in for pain management as well, is that when you take a lot of stress away from them or show them how to manage the stress, it instantly makes a difference in their physiology, which is pretty incredible.
Oh yeah. Well, that's part of for my own experiences because I've been struggling with adrenal fatigue, and all the different hormone imbalances. It's been a long 10 years that have brought me here where now, there's insulin sensitivity, there's estrogen dominance, there's cortisol, too much cortisol there, and all of that has wreaked havoc on my body. And all of that was from living in a world of stress where what do you mean I can get by on 4 hours sleep? 3 hours sleep, it's okay too, because I have to finish the laundry and I have to go to work and I have to take care of my kids and I have to try and have a life. And we feel all of these obligations that we've put on ourselves, like you experienced as well, right? We have all of this that we're trying to manage, and stress is secondary, and it really actually needs to be one of the primary things we recognize. Like I've shifted my life into if it's causing me stress and I'm getting better at catching it sooner and sooner, it's a full stop. It's a full
Mhm.
stop. It's going to wait. I'm going to reevaluate how to manage it, and to manage accomplishing whatever's being demanded or asked of me. But the minute the stress starts to build, it's just everything has to come to a stop. That's been my like kind of approach to it, because otherwise you get so carried away that the next thing you know, you're back in stress mode, your body's suffering, your mind is suffering, and then it's a recovery period to pull yourself back out of it.
Mhm.
So stress management is really the underdog or understated issue in so many people's physical ailments that we're treating the symptoms of. We're treating the insomnia, we're treating the weight gain, we're treating the blood pressure, often, very Western medicine with medications, but the root cause of it, if that can be alleviated, everything else, it takes time. It takes a lot of time because it takes a lot of time to cause those problems, right? You can live 10, 15 years running that till the physical reactions even start.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. Yeah.
but once you can address the root cause of it and have that mindset shift, a lot of that other stuff falls away.
100%. So I had like a client who came in for sleep improvements. Okay. And he'd been suffering with sleepless nights, like I'm saying, 2 hours of sleep for about 10 or 15 or 12 years or something to that effect. He had two small children, he was running a business, and he was just like fed up, it gets it's a lot on the system after a while. And he's like, I can't even be in a good mood around my family because I'm so tired, I'm just grouchy all the time. And he was put on some pretty heavy duty, like, I don't even want to say sleep pills. They were like horse tranquilizers almost, or similar to what like horses would use to tranquilize them, and all this types of medication that he didn't necessarily need. Like it was a side effect, was they would maybe make you sleepy, but he was
Uh,
prescribed medication not targeted for what he
right.
had so many. So what was interesting was, like, through hypnosis, he resolved a big stress in his life that had happened years ago, which it was unresolved, sort of a relationship, right?
Okay.
That he needed to resolve and close off and then manage his stress from work. And after that, he's like, he was just astounded. He's like, I could sleep for the first time in, like, 12 years. It's something, right? But these
Huge.
things unconsciously, can you carry them like a monkey on your back, right? And again, they can manifest in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, and so many of us struggle with it, and it's so amazing that you're out there helping people change that for themselves, really giving them alternatives to the conventional Western approaches to healing, right? And I could talk to you all day about this, I think, and share with you. We're coming, I think, to the end of the episode, so I think maybe this is a good place to turn the discussion to, first of all, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
I really enjoyed this conversation. You're wonderful, and I hope that we can continue to talk and maybe have another episode down the road, because I know you have so much more to share.
Oh,
That's
yes, yes, I'd love that.
absolutely evident to me. I'm going to ask you, so I asked you about bringing a book title to recommend, because I've created a guest recommended book list on the site bookshop.org on my storefront. And so every guest recommends a book for any of our audience who wants to follow through with things that might have inspired or, enlightened you. So if you have your book to share, I'd love that.
So I'm a member of the Master Hypnotist Society, okay, and I have a compliant clinic. So we call it Master Hypnotist Society Compliant Clinic. So we do have readings that were sort of mandatory, but I'm just very fortunate that they're awesome and they're incredible. And I actually use a lot of the materials to teach my clients, either when I do an online session or in-person session. So the first recommendation I'd have is called Heart of the Mind. It's actually a simple book in Neuro Linguistic Programming, and it covers a bunch of themes in a very simple way. You don't have to be a specialist in any way to grasp the concepts, and it tells you how to do it from reframing an incident. But every chapter, which there are how many? There are 21 chapters, covers a theme. So there's one, for example, on parenting positively, letting go of healing traumas, okay, to allergic responses, to making decisions, to getting over feeling shame and guilt all the time, okay, to a naturally slender eating strategy. So a bunch of them using neuro-linguistics programming. It's so powerful. My clients love it. And a lot of the teachings are based on stuff like we might go a step further, but it's just incredible. And you could buy this on Amazon, and it's really not expensive. I think my client just bought it the other day. It was like $18, so not much, but incredible learning in this.
Thanks for the buck.
Yeah. And so, anyone who's interested in neurolinguistic programming doesn't necessarily want to take a course. This is really great introductory book, really. So, and the second, I have two because I love books so much. This one I also use a lot for teaching. It's called the Anti-Anxiety Toolkit. Okay, so it's rapid techniques to rewire the brain. Okay, this one's got really neat things. So the author, Melissa Tiers, I believe she's a hypnotist as well, and she's a self-proclaimed nerd, and she just loves like science and sort of measuring things. And she wanted to sort of quantify more what you can do in hypnosis and NLP. So she came up, and this has like a bunch of exercises that you can use to instantly get out of stress. Okay, so it talks from anything from like a way to relax your jaw, okay, to a way you could focus your eyes, to taking deep breaths, and all of it's very, very simple and anyone can do, but it actually helps you instantly, like we just did an anchor, which helps you to instantly put you in a good place. These techniques will also help you to get out of stress pretty immediately. So another great book, and you can also buy this on Amazon, yeah, as well.
Practical and hands-on. We like that. That's also good.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you so, so much. This conversation has been so enlightening, and I love that. I thank you very much for that experience myself. That was a nice gift, and I really appreciate that. So I invite the audience to take a look at the show notes, where we'll have all the links of where people can reach you and all the things that you do. And we'll be circulating this episode on Everyday Woman TV and YouTube, and it'll be available on podcast. So there'll be lots of access points for people to hear you and to see you, and then to reach out to you, hopefully. So I wish you a wonderful day. Yes, sorry.
And in closing, I'd just like to mention for anyone who is interested in trying hypnosis. So a Master Hypnotist Society clinic, we're about 45 across North America and Canada and the US. I believe they're in the process of opening one in Dubai and one in England as well. Okay, so the methodology is supported by over 40 years of trial error research and so on. And these clinics do offer a free hypnotic screening. So this is a great opportunity to meet directly with a hypnotist, have all your questions answered, and see if hypnosis is for you, to see if we can take you as a client. So you can reach out to any of those. And if you'd like more information on me, of course, Talia will include my information on her notes, as you'd mentioned before.
Definitely. And thank you for that at the end. That's very helpful because I know our audience is from around the world so that they'll have many access points to find resources for themselves. I thank you again. This has been wonderful
Thank
and so enlightening. And I look forward to having you on again and continuing to share and communicate with you. So thank you.
you. I'm honored. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
And you too. Thanks so much, Talia. Okay.